A place that is all too familiar for this style of racing. When you talk multi-class, this is one of the stables that gets talked about. When you talk World Tour events, this is one of the staples that gets talked about. When you talk about racing action that is sensational again and again and again, you cannot look past the Venomworks Sportscar Championship, because it seems every time we find ourselves at a circuit, it seems to deliver once again. You are watching here from the Sebring International Raceway. One more hour of coverage here for the third round of this 12-round championship as we take you here to one of the great circuits in all of the world. It's Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Caitlin Penny on the commentary, Marco Barbanera on the cameras, brought to you on Forever Sim Racing. Of course, a massive thank you has to go to Violet for the music that you have heard earlier on in this piece that we have seen so far. But Caitlin, to bring you into the conversation, as qualifying for the GTEs is about to start in the next couple of moments. This track is all about bumps. It's all about that transition from asphalt to concrete to asphalt again. It is truly a unique circuit.
Of course it is. Yeah, Sebring, of course, one of the staples of endurance racing. As you said, there are cars named after it. There's a lot of sorry, I've only just woken up from a nap. Right, come on, get your head into it, Caitlin. Right. Sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, Sebring, very bumpy, very narrow, very difficult. I've raced here in the past. I've crashed here in the past. It has some notorious corners, including turn 3 Crescent Corner, turn 1, one of the bumpiest corners that you will ever find anywhere in motorsport, turn 14 as well, also another accident black spot. As a result, the drivers are going to have to keep their wits about them, especially when they have this multi-class element to it.
Drivers know when they turn up to this circuit, they are either A, going to feel a lot of bumps going through their steering wheel, or B, they're going to go to their force feedback setting and dial down the steering wheel just a little bit. GTEs, though, are out on track, and they have 8 full minutes to go out there and qualifying. They are under quote-unquote mastermind rules. Once they have started their final lap, they are allowed to finish it once the 8 minutes do expire. From there will be a 4-minute gap, and then the LMP2 category division will go out for 8 minutes of hard-fought qualifying out there today. It's going to be an interesting challenge, but there is, of course, in the GTEs, only one driver who seemingly needs to be beaten at this point in time. He's 2 wins out of 2. He's walked away in both races with a commanding victory, and that is PJ Claeysens' Porsche.
And indeed, he was almost 0.3 of a second faster than anyone else in practice as well. So he still seems like the fastest driver of all, and the one to beat. He's just setting up for flying lap now. He's behind a BMW GTE, giving that some space. And then he's going to release all of the brake horsepower in that Porsche engine as he heads around the Sebring circuit, weaving to warm his tyres up. Here's Sunset Bend. There's a corner that I didn't mention when I was talking about notorious corners on the track, and how could I forget it? Sunset Bend, of course, very fast and a little bit blind as well. It's extremely difficult at night, or in fact, as the sun sets. Or it's very, very tricky nonetheless. Through turn 1, the second most bumpy corner on the circuit, sometimes the bumpiest, and then up towards turn 2, and onto, or around Crescent Corner, sorry, before you head onto a short straight, which isn't really that straight, which takes you up towards the end of the first sector, and a sort of half hairpin there.
Yes, of course, the hotel hairpin there down at turn number 7, with that turn 2 being turn number 3. So this is turn 7 for PJ Claeysens out there on track. Claeysens, not Claeysens. I've just remembered that I was told to correct myself. So PJ Claeysens now heading through the Fangio chicane. Not much of a chicane anymore, but definitely a place where you can certainly attack. This is the second half of the circuit now. You head yourself up to the Cunningham corner, this 90-degree right, before it really does jar back left. A fantastic transfer section before you head to the control tower corner. Here, this beautiful right-hand bend where you start setting up towards the mid to late part of the lap. This is where all the speed comes in terms of this lap. This is where the straight line comes in. There's the left-hand kink of Bishop's Corner. You offer up a little bit of a prayer if you go side by side through that part before you head yourself into Berleger. Here, this fantastic right, then you got the left, and then the third right of Le Mans. You can use all of that area beyond the white line on the left-hand side. iRacing's rules over that section of track are incredibly lax. Now you head to the Ullman Straight, this fantastic penultimate straight out on track before you head to the corner of 1004 line, Sunset Bend. Every time you hit this corner, there is a correct line. Sometimes you don't quite know which one it is. Ethan Bass, fastest, but suddenly beaten by Dion Phillips on a 58.1 to open up the times. Worth noting as well, all these drivers, new tyre model, version 7, making life tough, but Claeysens goes fastest by 0.6.
Fantastic lap from Claeysens, great opening effort. Ewan Marshall now goes second, just 0.4 back, and Morgan Thompson gets less than 0.2 of a second back from Claeysens. So that is the best retaliation effort, you could say, from Morgan Thompson there, going into second in the GTE. So it's Claeysens followed by Thompson and Marshall in the early stages as more drivers continue to set their laps. Still several who haven't, so the order very much not even representative yet. Mathieu van Delden, I'm looking at his lap. This has been pretty good so far, back across the line as well, and he's going to go into, actually it's not as good as I thought. He's still got about a second to gain before he gets into the real pointy end of the field. But anyway, 11 of our GTE drivers have set laps now, and still we've got about 5 or 6 more to go.
Yes, and one of them is the 388 machine of Billy Fletcher, and Billy is someone to keep an eye out on, has been second in both races in the opening 2 rounds of the championship, just hasn't been able to get there and knock on the door and pick up a race victory. If anywhere was a chance, Sebring would be that place to go out there and get the results. Sunset Bend on that transfer from asphalt to concrete there through the final corner, taking that wider line through that section and just really trying to put the power down as early as possible on that charge over, and does a 58.3, only down in 7th position for the moment. And by the looks of things, he's not going to set another lap time with 2 minutes to go. So that's going to be a huge issue for him. He will start no higher than that position. So that's going to be a big shock. Billy Fletcher's got to charge through the field as Dion Phillips does improve again. Goes to 3rd position, 157.9 that time by. Just 1:40 left to go for drivers to go in and set those times. And of course, with such a long lap as this, it's almost 2 minutes as Ewan Marshall jumps back to second and Morgan Thompson goes fastest on a 57.4. This is all now about who can find that pace. Edward Lack onto a 57.7. This last lap's going to be crucial.
Totally it is. Of course, you were saying it's a long circuit, and that means that these drivers really don't get that many chances. And someone who's just capitalized on his chance, Keanu Borgenjon there, goes up into P2 in the Ferrari great lap. And Claeysens in the pits.
Yeah, Claeysens in the pits. He came together. It was a parking lot. Russell Barnes had himself into an accident. Cars were stopped because Fraser Smith was stopped and Dion Phillips was around, and skirting off was Ethan Bass as well. So a massive, massive instant there in qualifying, all caused at turn 5 by Fraser Smith getting on the grass. Bass had to try and run to the outside. That worked. He tried to get going again. Dion Phillips got the tap, and then Claeysens, who came up onto the scene, saw Russell Barnes, who decided to sit and wait, and Claeysens, who was on a quick one, saw a gap in the middle, and I've run out of road, and there's the contact. So that's 5 drivers then who have run out of opportunities to go and set one more lap time. So this now becomes a big, big case of almost everyone there doing well. And through all of this here, Caitlin, very quickly, Keanu's gone second.
He has, yeah, I mentioned that when it happened, but PJ Claeysens there actually went into the wall again as he came out of the pits. So Claeysens, he is still going. He's trying to get.
He won't get around.
Yeah, I don't think he is going to get a lap. He thought he might, I think, although he appears to be backing off now. So Claeysens, I think, will just be heading back to the pits. Not sure if he would have gone onto another lap if he hadn't had that incident. Probably not, to be honest.
Well, once you cross the line, they can't finish the lap they're on. So you got to finish their lap at the moment. So Marshall will not find anything more. Edward Lack trying to make a run through the final corner. He's 0.3 off at the moment. trying to get themselves where they need. Lack's going to go for it. He feels he's quicker, and the answer is no, he's not. Morgan Thompson, no lap time for him. Here's Elmar Noteboom, though, trying to get the CXR car going well, and they had a very good run last time at Interlagos, and of course, apologies for that. Keanu goes fastest, 57.2. He finds it right when he needs it there, so Keanu Bogosian finds himself on pole position. Billy Fletcher, of course, will not go quicker after his lap, with the likes of Russell Barnes and Mathieu van Delden making their push to the line. Russell Barnes in 8th place at the moment. Over the line he goes. No improvement there for Russ, but over the line goes Mathieu van Delden. 58.4 does improve. 10th position for him. The last driver over the line will be PJ Claeysens, who will not improve on his time as they go through. So the GTEs will finish their laps. They are done for what they've done. And Keanu Bogosian takes his first pole position. Morgan Thompson second, and surprisingly, PJ Claeysens there in 3rd position, Caitlin.
If I was PJ Claeysens, I'd be feeling absolutely robbed right now. Of course, these things happen in qualifying. There was no malicious intent from anyone. But yeah, he's really been cost another chance to go for pole. And I have little doubt that he would have at least got very close to pole, if not taken it. Because, of course, PJ Claeysens has been the driver to beat in GTE so far this season. But yeah, that's just unlucky. However, of course, it's still a relatively long race. We've got 1 hour. It's a proper feature-length race. And as a result, qualifying won't be quite everything.
Well, drivers then getting themselves back into pit lane. They will all be just getting themselves ready to go. 2 minutes to go before they have their runs at the moment. And there's not many drivers here today in terms of that LMP2 field. Just counting through, there are going to be 8 who will be taking the challenge on. The likes of JPW Ringwood, the championship leader, had a great scrap with Neil Andrews that last time they went forward and tried to go, and they're already lining up on the very narrow pit exit here. That's something worth making a mind about here at this point, Caitlin, is the fact that this is effectively, at best, a 2-wide pit exit. If anyone's going to battle here on pit lane, it's going to be very tough for these drivers to maintain themselves side by side, especially as they run out wide or on the outside of turn 1, looking to get themselves going forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't go side by side in this pits if I was them, and they have to be careful that they know where their other drivers are, and that they are keeping their distance in mind. But anyway, social distancing, that's that applies to racing as well as real life. But anyway, drivers to look out for here, of course. JPW Ringwood has been very, very strong. He, I think, won last time out.
Time before.
Time before, sorry, indeed. Yeah, just me being behind. Tony Baird, of course, also extremely quick. And Jelle Pieter Hoogland, I expect, will have a better round than last time as well.
Well, Jelle Hoogland is probably one of the favourites here today. He's been very quick at Sebring. They've been talking him up all week long. They've been talking up for over a month about how good Jelle is here at Sebring. This might be his race. We could see 3 different race winners in the opening 3 rounds. Ringwood said he's been struggling, but his practice times were a little bit okay. Watch out for Tony Baird as well over this qualification period in the Nomad car. We know he's incredibly quick, but he's had 2 very poor finishes and instants in the opening 2 races. He's fighting this championship from behind, and of course, you cannot look behind Neil Andrews. He is the driver that I think everybody who knows about LMP2 racing on iRacing knows that he has been one of the quickest and most underrated drivers for near on half a decade at this point.
I tell you what, though, looking at the practice times, this could be one of the closest qualifying sessions that we've seen so far this year. Because Sebring's a long track, but still, they were separated by something like, that's about 0.6 of a second they were separated in practice. And of course, that really doesn't tell the full story, and it isn't always representative. But if it's anything to go by, this could be quite a showdown here.
Caitlin, do you remember what happened when it came to these LMP2s in qualifying at Interlagos when we had 5 split by a 10?
Not clearly. I haven't exactly got the best of memory when it comes to these things, but I can imagine it was close.
They were 5 within a tenth. That's how close it was, and that is all that
Goodness.
needs to be known. So this field is incredibly close when they get right down to it, and these drivers will be hoping that they can pick up a bit of toe here or there. They're going to hope that they're going to set their lap up correctly and positively in this race. We're talking about this race very quickly here as drivers look to gear up for their first flying laps. Ringwood will be first, the championship leader here, Caitlin, is the fact that there is one mandatory stop required in this series, and that mandatory stop becomes crucial, especially for these LMP2s, who over the last build here on iRacing have moved to new tyre model version 7. This is a completely different kettle of fish.
Of course, new tyre model to get used to, and that will really affect the way the cars handle, the effect of the way the tyres heat up, and how they handle at different tyre temperatures and wears as well. Anyway, onto a lap goes JPW Ringwood. He is the first car in the chain, and he's going to be the first car to witness this Sebring track in anger in qualifying. His practice time wasn't particularly competitive.
Oh, Bolland's off.
Oh, and yeah, okay.
And that was at turn 1. He caught the wall on the inside, 0x'd it, and then speared hard into the Armco there on the right-hand side. That is an abandoned ship lap. He will not be happy with that, and he will need to get out and redo his laps if he is to go and get there. But keep a focus on Tony Baird at the moment in the 22, making his way through Fangio up to Cunningham as he looks to try and really attack. And we're talking about also this brand new era of sim racing as he runs wide, misses the apex. This is going to be a poor lap now from Tony after that big mistake that's gone through. And we need to talk about this new era of sim racing as well, Caitlin, because things like IMSA turning up, NASCAR have been turning up onto iRacing, things coming up soon like IndyCar are going to jump on board as well with iRacing. This is going to be a big new time for what iRacing is going to be capable of doing. All of sim racing is going to be capable of doing. And surely now is the best time than any to go out there and showcase what you've got as Ringwood runs wide through Le Mans corner. His lap now has to be completely abandoned at this point in time, as that is now 2 drivers with big errors.
Of course, yeah, Ringwood there just setting up for another time. He will go for it again. But you're absolutely right when it comes to this being a crucial time in iRacing's history and in sim racing's history. I'm sure we're going to look back on this as the COVID-19 era, where of course everyone has realized that they can't go racing in real life and has had to substitute it with sim racing, and then have gone, oh, it's really not that bad, is it? And anyway, it's great to see big organizations climbing on board as well, and I'm looking forward to in the future having sim racing being a properly viable alternative form of racing. Of course, it will never replace real life racing, but if it can exist in harmony with real life racing, without that comparison, without people putting it down for not being completely real, then yeah, this we will owe a lot of that to this trying time.
I actually reckon it could at one point in time, but it's too long of an explanation to explain at this moment, but I do have a belief that at one point sim racing will overtake real-world racing, but that's a different point entirely. But Neil Andrews fastest over the first lap, and he's fastest by a big margin, 0.7 of a second over Tony Baird. Josh Johnson, one of the 2 Johnson brothers there, in third, 1.2 seconds back. And Jelle Peter Hoogland just setting up sighters there in 4th position. So that's going to be key and crucial for these opening laps. Just 3 minutes and under remaining now in this qualifying session. And drivers are going to be out there looking to set some times. What about Philip McDougall? Here's a driver who struggled last time out, span at every given opportunity at Interlagos, but was one of the quickest men in practice here at Sebring. If he's got a lap time under his belt, if he's got that pace, then he would be a huge addition right now to Neil Andrews, who's fastest, because the one thing you do need in this series is a teammate to help you out.
JPW Ringwood crossing the line goes third, so still not really that close
fastest.
to... Oh, yeah, they're currently fastest, 148.238. That's very quick. Josh Johnson now goes third. Oh, and Andrews goes fastest again. Andrews coming across the lane, 148.075. That's by far the fastest lap we've seen today. So some of these LMP2s at the front of the field really flying. Still no laps from Philip McDougall or Kevin Bolland. We saw Bolland have that accident. McDougall's close to the end of his first flying lap, and he was relatively quick in practice. He could be a real challenger here.
He certainly could, but he's only got one lap to make it happen, and it has to be a no mistakes lap around this place. You know you can't afford to have too many issues, and of course there is the lap traffic trouble that comes along at this place, because it looks like at the moment the difference is 9 seconds between LMP2 and also the GTE category. That is between Neil Andrews and Keanu Begognon's time out there on track. So we'll see how that works. Ringwood is way off heading towards Tower. He gets a nice little jump as well for his troubles, and almost came in at exactly the same time on top of Josh Johnson. So he's just about got away with it there as he goes through. He might have one more opportunity. Bolland crosses the line, does a 52.4 going over. That's not quick, but he's got one more lap to get that one all together. Does the 49 machine there that Bolland is running, but the final few laps have come in. All of these drivers now, Hoogland and Johnson and Ringwood and Andrews and co, they will have one more opportunity. McDougall will not, as he looks to go through the hairpin section down at turn 7 at the hotel. He's not quite there, but the likes of Hoogland now making his way over, and this is where you start hitting that sweet spot. The third lap, the fourth lap, that's the money laps in this vehicle, Caitlin. Yellow Peter Hoogland then to third position then, 48.4, perfect for what he wanted. Johnson improves to 4, 48.9. Good job. Ringwood's got to find a good lap together right now. Johnson improves to a 49.4. The track is working for them at the moment. Andrews, no time set, but he will be the last driver who will come over the line and look to set one more time to go through. So McDougall will be the first driver then to come across the line if he doesn't find himself in issues. He was a little hesitant there heading over that curb. It is hot today compared to what was the ILMS splits that were going on. This track is 34 degrees at the moment out on track. It was 26 in evening conditions when it came to racing at the ILMS event at Sebring, and those are iRacing official events that have been going on. Here's McDougall looking to set his time as he crosses the line, and he does himself a 49.4, which is good enough for 7th position out of 8. Kevin Bolland will now look to try and make that push over the start-finish line, try and get himself one more position if he can. His first lap wasn't brilliant, and it's a 51.4 for him, so he is well off the pace today. 2 seconds off his nearest competitor is Kevin Bolland. Hoogland, though, 4/10 off of Andrews at the moment, needing to find just a smidgen more as he looks to make this charge over to the corner of 1004 lines. That one being the Sunset Bend, and soon it will have to be Aloha Yeli as he goes through the final corner, looking to try and open up as much as he can on that exit, going over those white lines. He is allowed to do so, so long as he doesn't touch that grass or hit those tyres, and it's a 48.5. He couldn't quite find anything more. Ringwood to the line, 49 flat. He did improve, but not enough. He will start from 5th position. Will the championship leader, Ben Johnson, making his push to the line? Has he got something more? Yes, he does, but not enough for position as he went over and looked for a little bit more. That is everybody across the line. So Neil Andrews will be fastest in LMP2 with Tony Baird alongside. Yele Peter Hoogland starts from 3rd with Josh Johnson in 4th. Then it's JPW Ringwood 5th. Benjamin Johnson in 6th with Philip McDougall 7th and Kevin Bolland in 8th. Caitlin stood by with GTEs.
Kino Borgonjon, of course, took pole position in GTE, followed by Morgan Thompson, then the championship leader PJ Claeysens. Ewan Marshall was 4th, followed by Edward Lack, Dion Phillips, Ethan Bass, Russell Burns, Billy Fletcher, Matisse Van Delden. Then Alma Nootboom, who had a little bit of a disappointing qualifying session, probably going to be coming up through the order a bit. Fraser Smith, then Kim Behate, Jonas Gillis, and some drivers not setting laps. Adam Wright, Lewis Hanke, Ben Kriener, and Ollie Slade.
Yep, those are the drivers they're going through. Ollie Slade was incredibly late to get to the dance. He didn't even go through practice. He didn't even get a chance to set a qualifying time. So that's going to be crucial. Drivers like Ben Kriener didn't get a time in. Of course, Louis Hanker as well, looking to try and push through. But there will be one full pace lap here around in this vehicle. It's one of the tracks which does allow for one full revolution behind as the race to Okayama continues over the course of this championship. But what these drivers do know is that they have to be absolutely on it. This is the early to mid part now of the championship. After this race, 1/4's distance is going to be scored complete here, and that is going to be the tone setter for the mid part. And that mid part, that's where you make your bank. That's where you make your dough. That's where you make your money, Caitlin. And for these drivers, they've all got to go and make bank in the middle part of the championship, especially when you've got a very tough mid-run, which sees you going to places like Gilles Villeneuve in April. When it comes to May, it's going to be a tough race as well to be dealing with. And of course, the halfway point is going to be completely marked out by Le Mans, which is going to be a huge point of contention in the championship.
Of course, we have some exciting rounds coming up, Le Mans being one of those, and we're racing once every month this year. It's quite a spaced out championship, so the drivers get plenty of time to practice between each round, although quite a versatile one as well. We've already been to 3 very, very different circuits, of course. Daytona in January, followed by Interlagos, which couldn't be more different from Daytona, to be honest, in February. And now in March, we're taking on the bumpy and long Sebring International Circuit.
Yep, and this is going to be a very interesting race for these drivers. They all know what they need to do. They need to be absolutely on it here from moment one to moment last. The GTE field, though, is going to be incredibly interesting for these drivers. They know what they have to do out there on track, and they know that this GTE field is all about stopping PJ Claeysens from picking up another race victory. All these drivers know is that Claeysens is the most consistent over a stint as well, as Claeysens is a little late to get going there off of the line, but gives a lot of time as they look to try and work out exactly where they want. But it's unfamiliar territory. The one thing we haven't seen Claeysens do in this series so far is actually get into overtakes. He has been at the front for the majority of his races. Now, this is going to be a real true test of his racecraft here, Caitlin.
Of course, he's going to have to come through from third with this one. Always more difficult than starting further up. And of course, Sebring always a test of people's racecraft, but for PJ Claeysens, he has got some ground to make up. Also, a quick apology to Ethan Bass for mispronouncing his name again, just like I've done a couple of times so far this season. I will be keeping that in mind, but it is indeed Ethan Bass.
Yes, and this is going to be crucial in terms of this race as well, because of the fact that they are running for an hour, and an hour doesn't necessarily come up in terms of a long race for some drivers, but an hour is long enough to see so much drama come through over the course of a race. And of course, behind this iRacing Porsche first safety car, this is where we're going to see a lot of battling going to take place. So Caitlin, we have seen drivers like Ethan Bass make great progress there. From 15th, he will start overall. That will put him 7th in class to start. This whole GT field is going to be interesting, but my focus is going to be on what will be a very, very close LMP2 field. We saw Neil Andrews at Interlagos make a wondrous move at Ferradura to get himself through for the race win. But, of course, Tony Baird, here's someone who needs something to prove on the front row and will crucially be on the outside into turn number 1. What does Tony Baird have to do today?
Well, firstly, it would very much help him to get a good start. If he can get ahead of Andrews on the lap, that would really put him in the driving seat of this race. But even if he can't quite do that, it's still not all is lost. Then he's got to really focus on what he's going to do with the strategy, whether he can undercut whoever he's running behind. Maybe he thinks the overcut would be more important. Really, if he can't get through at the start, that's probably going to be what he thinks about next.
So they head themselves through Berliget over towards this fantastic Le Mans corner, and then the Ullman Straight, which is the prime place to set up moves at this Sebring track. All these drivers trying to desperately weave and wiggle and get some heat into those tyres. Of course, on that new tyre model, they are desperately wanting to get themselves ready and going as Andrews has really backed off of this iRacing Porsche for safety car, which is running around there with, I'll call him Barry in the vehicle. I don't know why. He can be called Barry because that's his name now. He's driving at 97 kilometers an hour around this track, just enough to keep the tyres up and fully in temperature. So we'll see how this one works then as they go through Sunset Bend. The pace car will dive down onto pit road here to the right. The green flag will drop shortly, and Andrews right in the middle of the road is absolutely unchallenged and has got himself 7 car lengths to get himself off and going as the green flag drops for an hour's worth of racing. Here's the battle for second. Baird and Hoogland going at it, and Hoogland immediately down to the inside. Is he going to give enough room? Wide goes Tony Baird. Can he get it back on track? Yes, he can, but he's going to lose another one here. JPW's got a stormer. He's up to third as they go through. GTE's going through. Claeysens on the outside, trying to get past Morgan Thompson. Immediately gets it done in the Porsche.
Indeed, so Claeysens up into P2 as it stands. Bourgonjon got a good start. Oh, he's right. So Bourgonjon slightly over the grass there, and that's going to give Claeysens a bit of a run out of the corner. I'm not sure it's going to be enough. This isn't normally an overtaking opportunity unless you get a properly good run. Actually, that is a properly good run. Watch Claeysens here as he's going to make an outbraking maneuver. PJ Claeysens on the very first lap of the race goes first to third in as many corners.
Well, third to first, you would say, in as many corners. Side by side behind as well. Billy Fletcher needs to make some progress. Here's Ethan Bass at the moment, who is under that pressure as they head to the Cunningham corner. Another place to make the dive. Looks to try and go late on the brakes, but Bass is just as late behind that. Russell Barnes and Elmar Noteboom going at it. They are okay for the moment as they look to push, and cars are around here, and one of them is Benjamin Johnson here, who's off at Tower Corner. He came together with Philip McDougall heading through that section. McDougall ran wide and then into more dramas they went, and actually there was even more dramas because that was the championship leader, JPW Ringwood, also going off of that section, and that was from second position. I was wondering as well what's happened to Tony Baird because Bolland went off as well and Baird had to get around. So the LMP2s, 3 have gone off in almost the same corner.
Yeah, more than that, Kevin Bolland's also had a big crash. He's lost both his front and rear in that. Not entirely sure what happened to Johnson. My game glitched out right when it happened. But absolute carnage with the LMP2s.
Oh, it's 3 wide.
Johnson now has to get back through the GTE field.
Yeah, and the GTE field were 3 wide for a second there as that was Billy trying to get through Edward Lack, trying to get through Dion Phillips as Keanu had a slowdown penalty which dropped him behind Thompson and also behind Marshall as well. A hectic lap then completed for lap 1. Neil Andrews 1.4 seconds to the good down the road, side by side. Keanu into the side of Dion Phillips there, and Phillips makes his way through. And now here comes the pack swarming. Billy's going to take that as an opportunity. Here comes Billy Fletcher down the inside to try and make this move. It's Noah's Ark Racing. Keanu bumped to the outside and straight through, and once again he's got it done. But no, there's contact and Keanu's going to go around. They all check up with the concertina. Now working out, no, there goes one of the CXR cars into the fence because it was so close and tight.
Bourgonjon's had an absolutely dreadful start. This is a chaotic start to the race, and he's going to lose even more places now as he heads down to the hairpin. Bourgonjon here, well, not quite losing place there, but still, he's going to be a long way down the GT field from that pole position.
Fraser Smith drops a couple of places as well in his battle right now as second also going on at the moment. Second, third and fourth. Morgan Thompson, Ewan Marshall, Dion Phillips, all there, all looking square, all hoping that their racing is going to be closely fought at the moment. Edward Lack, Kimber Haight at the moment also having their scraps at the moment out on track. GTEs is where the madness is happening at the moment, but there is some brilliant racing. Look at how quick Yellow Peter Hoogland's been off the start. He has closed that 1.4 second gap down. That looks like it's under a second now here for the overall race lead. Gap as they cross line is 8/10, 6/10 quicker. He's got the tyres pretty much in that nice sweet spot has Yellow Peter Hoogland.
Hoogland chasing Andrews down in the opening stages of the race. The last lap for him was quite a bit quicker than Andrews. and he's continuing to challenge. Meanwhile, the GTEs coming through. Johnson has cleared all of the GTEs now, and appears to have done it cleanly, which is always good to see. Thompson and Marshall close for second place, but that's not what we've been watching, because you've got that long chain of cars further back, and the order's going to have a big shuffle around on my screen now as they all cross the line. Billy Fletcher made up quite a few places on that lap. Borgonja now is down to 5th in his class. That's a dreadful start from him. And as the rest of the field streams through, I notice Ollie Slade didn't start.
Here comes Ringwood.
Because we still... Oh yeah, Ringwood.
Trying to go down the inside of McDougall. Can he slow it up? No, he can't there down at the Cunningham corner. And he's in the grass. No, he's got around. And he's hit Tony Baird. So JPW Ringwood said he was struggling here today. I think he may have just got away with that with Tony Baird. He did even. There's no contact there, so my correction. But JPW Ringwood, though, is dropping further back. Tony Baird will pick one up at this point in time. So that is what happens in your LMP2s. You've got to be so careful on the grass, because new tyre model version 7 makes grass feel like you're on an ice rink.
Disaster for Ringwood. Elmer Noteboom is still in the pits as well, so he may be out of the race. Kevin Bolland appears to have disappeared, so I believe he's been a retirement. Slade didn't start, but that's okay, because we still have 17 GTEs and 7 LMP2s remaining.
And Louis Hanker picking up a position there. That's Adam Wright, who he's got by. Neil Andrews has lost the position. They're side by side here for turn number 1. And Andrews is going to hold on there down on the inside. What on earth happened as they battle towards turn 3? Stay with this for the moment. Not close enough this time is Yale Peter Hoogland. They looked like for the world and a half that there wasn't going to be that scrap. It was a slow down penalty for Neil Andrews. He had to serve it on the Ullman, and just like that, his lead got eradicated, but he's built up half a second to 2/3 once again over the course of that opening half of the lap. So that's going to be crucial. Noteboom back out on track. He'll be almost a lap down now here at this point with the fast repairs as they go through. And now there's a fight for Keanu on at the moment, because there's Billy Fletcher wanting 5th in class.
Andrews did a really good job there not to lose the lead despite that slowdown. It's very difficult not to, but he positioned his car perfectly to allow Hoogland not to make the move, and it would have been very easy just to have given that place up. But anyway, Jelle Pieter Hoogland did not manage to make his way through because Andrews is a racer and doesn't take that lying down. The rest of the field now streaming through appears to be quieting down a little bit, although I have noticed we have Alma Noteboom back in the race, so we do still have all 18 GTEs that started.
Yeah, we certainly do. Ooh, a little bit of contact there in front. That was going to be Russ Barnes there in a little bit of a moment with one Mr. Billy Fletcher. Fletcher ran slightly wide and the door was left half ajar at that point. And here's Ethan Bass on the outside now trying to get it done up at Cunningham. Can he get the move done and sorted? I know that he can't on the outside, so he's going to have to sit and wait a little bit longer for this one to go. To think that we're 5 minutes through this race is very surprising. On the brakes they go into the tower corner once again, and no real worries through that section of track at the moment, as this is a 5-car pack followed by a 2-car pack at the moment as they continue on, because you've got the likes, of course, of Matisse Van Delden and Kimber Haight going at it at the moment. Still, though, some great racing going on at this point in time. So we'll see how this one all develops at this stage. Tony Baird has got through on Philip McDougall. That has been a change for position between 5th and 6th positions. Overall, that happened into Sunset Bend. So Philip McDougall overtaken by Tony Baird. And that was a very, very comfortable overtake to be added on top of that. So we'll see how that plays into the factor for Tony Baird. He's got a little bit of a gap to the podium here. He's got to find 3 seconds to Josh Johnson here, Caitlin.
Tony Baird, of course, has been one of the fastest drivers all season long. He's had a little bit of bad luck, but he's properly going for it today. I just wish I could see what was going on, but I've disconnected from the server.
Oh. Well, that's a shame, but we'll continue onwards regardless at the moment. Some brilliant racing still going on, still available. Worth talking about PJ Claeysens' lead right now. It's exactly 3 seconds over Morgan Thompson, and he has been flying at a rate of 0.4 of a second every single lap. That has been crucial in terms of the way that this race has been run. The big train is where we are focusing, though, at the moment, and it is behind Billy Fletcher, and draft becomes so crucial around this place as maybe drivers started to gear up that move for the inside, and it's a half attack, half defend here from Russ Barnes. Look for the inside, and they're going wide. It's Billy Fletcher. He'll drop to the back of the train now as he just about avoids the tyres there on the outside of Cunningham Corner and gets it on track behind Louis Hanker, who's being spotted right now by Ollie Slade. So good job there from Billy Fletcher to get back going again, but he's dropped 6 places, 7 places even, for his troubles, and that is just how easily mistakes can creep in around this place as drivers look to try and get to exactly where they need to in this race, which is to victory and to 25 massive points that come along for a race win. No guarantees, though, for anybody to pick up a race win. We've seen it time and time again that issues have cropped up. Ben Kriener in a scrap right at the back. This is with Adam Wright trying to find a way through for what is going to be overall P21, and he's got the inside here into Sunset Bend. Nice to see Ben Kriener out there racing, Euro NASCAR driver, with Euro NASCAR skills as he leaves exactly a Euro NASCAR's width there for Adam Wright, heading through into the right of Sunset Bend. So he just about got it sorted, and that was close. Side by side as well. Here's Edward Lack. Mistake for Ethan Bass. He's got around, and it didn't look natural there as he's gone through. They still fight, though. Lack and Smith going at it, and Lack has got the move done. What on earth happened there for Ethan Bass? That was a very uncharacteristic turn 1. He got into the corner very early, lost it on entry, tried to gather it up, and when he was trying to get the car turned again, he knew he was running out of road and decided to actually rear-end it into the tyres very daintily to get back going. He's now with Ben Kriener, so that is more positions out of the book as they all hit the brakes and head into the hotel corner for those in the middle of the pack at this point in time. Keep an eye out as well here on what is going to be Tony Baird, because Baird is closing down that gap here to Josh Johnson at a rate of knots. A 48.4 from Tony Baird was 1.2 seconds quicker than Josh Johnson that last time by, and suddenly Josh Johnson is looking at maybe my podium isn't so secure, and knowing Josh as a character when it comes to sim racing, he'll probably know that Tony's a little bit quicker, isn't worth the fight at this point in time, and Caitlin would probably let Tony Baird go through in a Nomad sim racing car.
Probably. I'll get back to you when I can see it. But anyway, yeah, probably. It sounds like it. I'm just wondering what Tony Baird will be feeling, or Tony Baird, sorry, will be feeling about that opening lap. I noticed, of course, when rewatching it, that if I was in his position, I might feel that I got slightly shuffled out onto the grass. So he may have a word or two to say about that. Although things like that do tend to happen at turn 1, and really, I don't think I saw any foul.
Well, talking about what happens, Kimber Hates has had a slow-down penalty heading through Berger and into the Le Mans section because he's down 2 places, and suddenly looking behind is a recovering Billy Fletcher, maybe into turn number 1. Looks at a nose down the inside, but definitely not placed to make that move. So we'll have to sit behind. We'll have to wait just a little bit longer, will Billy Fletcher, as now all of this field is starting to pack up a little bit. Kianan Bigonjon right now has actually closed right back up here to Dion Phillips in this scrap going on for 4th and 5th on the road. The 12 versus the 4 machine on the brakes that these two go into the hotel hairpin, which is becoming one of the key battlegrounds right now. They have no worries to deal with at the moment. Leading drivers, though, they are soon going to have issues to deal with. Caitlin, talk to us about how difficult it is to get through on lap traffic.
Indeed. Well, we can't see any drivers struggling with lap traffic just yet, although that's surely going to start soon. Of course, Sebring, one of the narrowest circuits of all, and that's very difficult with multi-class racing because you don't have the benefit of cars diving out the way for you like you would in, say, Formula One or whatever. Of course, the rule with multi-class racing is that the slower cars hold their line, and it's the faster driver's job to find a clean way through, which is always difficult. Straights help, braking zones help, Although through the twistier bits, like the middle sector of the circuit, it's very, very difficult and sometimes even impossible. Sometimes you have to sit behind a GTE for a few corners before you can find that clean way through, and that's just what you have to do. So really, you can end up losing or gaining a matter of seconds through it all.
Battle for third overall. Josh Johnson has been officially caught now by Tony Baird, who's just waiting for a way through. Doesn't have to do it too quickly here, doesn't have to do it too slowly, but Tony Baird is running at a rate of knots through Berlinger. Here, this right-hand bend and then the left-right, which leads to the Le Mans section. Not going to think about diving down the inside there. That's maybe a last lap look, but was the quickest driver in LMP2 that last run through. So Tony Baird maybe trying to race back into this, moves to the inside, looking at Sunset Bend coming up, and is the move scored complete? You bet it is through Sunset. No arguments from Josh Johnson through that corner, and now what can Tony Baird do to close down those two in front? Neil Andrews and Jelle Peter Hoogland at the front of this LMP2 field. Neil Andrews now is out to the tune of a second and a half at the moment here in this race. But it is all about the mid-pack right now. Fraser Smith and Mathieu van Delden in your GTEs going at it at the moment. And it is class warfare between those two. Balance of performance has to be talked about. The Nomad Ferrari going up against the BMW of Smith. And Smith gets a big slide going through that corner. Nice and neat and narrow for Mathieu van Delden. No worries, though, as they head up to Tower Corner. It is still Fraser Smith in control of this little scrap.
And sadly, we've just lost Ben Kriener, I've noticed. So that's, I think that's first proper retirement from GTE. And he's had an accident coming out of Christensen corner. Dipped it on the curb, spun it around, dunk into the barriers. And that would have damaged the car, and he appears to have left on the spot. So that's the end of the day for Ben Kriener. Luckily, all of our other GTEs that started are still running in this race. And the only proper retirement so far has been the LMP2 of Kevin Bolland.
Yep, that's been the case. Dion Phillips and Keanu Begonjon, though, they're in a scrap. Wider line taken this time by Dion Phillips, and Keanu's going to try and pick up the exit here on the run towards turn number one. It's Ferrari versus Ferrari as they go towards this section. Nice and tight there from Dion on the inside, and he is going to heavily defend this section, but the up and under is so viable right now for Keanu with just how hard it was defended by Dion Phillips. He couldn't get back to the racing line, but no commitment there from Keanu into turn number three, but he didn't need to because wide went Dion Phillips, and pick it up, why don't you, Keanu? He very much made a forced error, did Dion Phillips, by his car placement. That was well worked by Keanu, but it's still not over as they head towards this hotel hairpin corner because Dion Phillips is going to fight back here on the outside, trying to get this move scored complete, and it will still not be for him. He's stuck on the outside, and suddenly, back behind, here's Edward Lack and Russell Barnes.
The two BMWs approaching, and they can see them in the mirrors almost towering above the Ferraris if you look at the height difference between the two. But anyway, yeah, it was a slight twitch mid-corner that cost Dion Phillips that place and gave it to Keanu Begonjon. But Keanu not done with it just yet. He doesn't want that to be the end of it all. But of course,
Josh Johnson's had a huge moment into turn number one. This is from fourth position. He's lost a place now to Philip McDougall. He completely ran into the back of Jonas Gillis and actually hit the wall hard going through that section. I don't know what happened there for Josh. I don't know whether he was spooked and missed his braking zone by a little bit because he has completely teetotaled Gillis's car, who will have to get back going again. But Josh Johnson in a whole world of trouble and now finds himself at the mercy of JPW Ringwood, who desperately needs to find places when he has no pace today.
Yeah, it looks to me like he just wasn't expecting Gillis to break there. But anyway, that's interesting. You really have to allow for things like that when you're in a faster car. But anyway, that's damage to Johnson's car. He held third place for a long time, but yeah, it's gonna...
Wow, right in front of the leaders there. Neil Andrews had a scare because Louis Hanker and Billy Fletcher making contact coming out of the final corner. They hold it together. Jelle Peter Hoogland with a huge dive, knowing he can't afford to waste time at the moment here and needs to get through. Billy Fletcher not happy there at the way that Jelle Peter Hoogland dived through, but you can see now traffic becoming a key factor in this battle right at the front of the field because because you've got to negotiate it the best way possible. Little wiggle for Fraser Smith as Andrews makes her way through, and now life needs to be easy for Yellow Peter Hoagland to stay within a second.
Yeah, that's tough. That really is tough. We were talking about how difficult it is to get through the traffic, and we're seeing that firsthand now with incidents already arising, and GTE's getting annoyed at the way the LMP2's coming through. LMP2's getting held up. Hoogland's just about to pass one of the BMWs there, and goes through with little problem. Phillips, they're also under pressure from Ed Lack, and that's going to be spiced up in a few seconds because Hoogland's going to catch them. So we'll see
Andrews
how that
first.
affects things. Indeed. Oh, Andrews, sorry. Yep, sorry. So Andrews there passing Russell Barnes. Now going past Lack on the outside. Lack backs off. That's very good of him. And around the outside of Phillips in the process. Lack now, his job is to try to follow him through. Hasn't been able to, but here comes Hoogland as well, running wide at the entry to the penultimate corner. And, well, it's going to happen in a straight line, so the advantage is negated.
The advantage certainly is, and talking about lapping as well, PJ Claeysens has got through on Elmar Noteboom, and that is for 1 lap, so that's going to be very key in terms of the way that race is going to be run out here at the moment. Talks of Josh Johnson. He is back out there at the moment, and he is going again, but his vehicle looks a lot worse for wear in terms of the way that he wants to be running it right now. I think he's trying to survive to get to a pit stop window at this point in time, but the battles still continue. Lack versus Phillips going on, this for 5th and 6th overall as they get on the brakes into the left of 3, 4 and 5 on track. Russell Barnes has been very patient there, looking at the way he's been running the number 35 machine, just waiting for that opportunity. But once more, here comes lap traffic. It's Tony Baird in 3rd place, who is closing down here the leaders right now and has done wonderfully. This is the difficulty, though. Battle happens ahead, and now you've got to try and funnel away into position. These cars are even here, Caitlin, on low speeds, but it was when the high speed comes in. That's where the LMP2 gets the advantage, more oomph.
Yeah, and they're also passing the leaders of GTE now, and the disadvantage of that, of course, is that these are the fastest GTEs in the race. Although the advantage, of course, is that they're experienced drivers who shouldn't pose too much of a threat, shouldn't make any silly mistakes around them, or anything like that. But anyway, Andrews and Hoogland getting past them okay. They were actually separated by less than a second as they crossed the line 2 laps ago. Oh.
Look at Edward Lack, going to try and go side by side at Bishop into Berlinger and try and getting it done. He's got to stay side by side here through towards Le Mans corner. He's got the inside, but here's the up and under attempt coming along from Dion Phillips. He was wise to that. Immediately hard to the inside, then goes Lack. And suddenly, no draft there for Phillips. It's all over speed from that corner, and they've got to start worrying here because McDougall is turning up on the scene as a bit of trying to lap you traffic at this point in time. They decide to go single file for that point at the time, but look at all of that battling. It has brought back Fraser Smith to the foray as they look to try and deal with everything that's happening around them. It is very much a case of every little scrap's going to be crucial. Oh, just about there, Dion, leaving enough room there for McDougall to dive down towards turn 1.
Yeah, that was very tight there. McDougall slotted in between the two of them, and that's saying something, since if you look at them now, looks like there's less than a cigarette paper's width. But anyway, McDougall somehow managed to fit an entire whopping LMP2 car in there. But gets through it cleanly, and in the background, the GTEs continue to fight. This has been great driving from Ed Lack there to get past Dion Phillips. It was a good move. Now Barnes will have an advantage, I think, heading towards the hairpin. Not close enough, and they now have Fraser Smith just behind them as well in the very nice liveried BMW. And it's going to be a while before they get another overtaking opportunity, but if they just stick with each other, this is going to really kick off, I think, towards Sunset Bend.
Both Johnsons in for their mandatory 1 pit stop, and it's early here around lap 12, lap 13 out on track. So both of them will get going, and they will have their own race as they will fight to see who is best Johnson, who is best in the family, the two brothers, Josh and Ben. And that's going to be very key between those two as well, because having a talk about it, they literally race from about, 10 feet apart from each other? If you have an incident with one Johnson, you can just shout over and maybe even have fisticuffs in the room.
I remember once, because my brother is also a sim racer, I remember once colliding with him in an academy race at Silverstone and literally just shouting "idiot" down the stairs. So that does happen. But anyway, let's hope that they keep their relationship intact, I suppose. They're running okay so far. Back of their class, of course, except for Kevin Bolland, who's retired, and that, of course, is because they have both made their pit stops. Their grid position's not hugely competitive. Johnson just edging out Johnson with Josh. Oh, and Josh is off.
Well, Johnson has gone off, and that gives Johnson the position, so Johnson will be happy that Johnson's got through, and the mistake was Johnson's at that point in time. So, in terms of what's a good maths question for you, if you're struggling, and if you're watching, if you've got kids or anything like that, and you want to tell them just how good things are, just try and work out how long this sentence is, and then work out how many times I can say Johnson, the way it's gone, as Josh Johnson had the mistake, which allowed Benjamin Johnson to go through. So that was a very good little overtake there for Benjamin Johnson. He will be happy about the way he's got through. Billy Fletcher's come down in. He's also made his stop early, and Billy is someone who notoriously makes a stop early, Caitlin, and gains positions in fresh air. He is so quick, and that's what he does best, drive in fresh air.
Of course. Well, I think a lot of drivers will feel that they go best in fresh air, although of course these these LMP2s are they're tricky to drive in traffic, of course, because they're so dependent on their aero. Sometimes you can really unsettle the cars by reaching another one at a dodgy point. I'm noticing there that JP Ringwood had quite a lot of traffic coming into a difficult part of the track, and that's allowing actually, which Ferrari is that? There are two Ferraris going side by side. It's Van Delden and Hanke there. That allowed Hanke to get up alongside Van Delden, but Van Delden kept
Yep, kept position there, did the Nomad Sim Racing driver in front, and they've got to be a little bit cautious behind. Kimber Haight still there, still waiting in the BMW, which is going to make life maybe a little bit more difficult at this point in time. So Kimber Haight is going to be close enough to really try and challenge here, these two, and pick up another position if he can, or another two, which would be very good to move 16th overall and up into 9th position in class. This is for the top 10, and another good little run here by Mathies van Delden as down in on the lane. I did spy someone who may just be retired now after what I have just seen. I believe that's Elmar Noteboom, who has pulled it down into pit road and has retired the vehicle. So Elmar Noteboom done. Louis Hanker's got through, though, into turn number 1. Got it done down on the inside by a country mile, and there goes Hanker. Just as we were speaking, I've only just saw that one. I was busy looking at him trying to make that move through. Big slide at turn 3, and you saw it better than I did, Caitlin. Hanker dropping 2 places.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. It looked like he just tried to brake too late, too hard, and well, wide he went. Through went Van Delden, and through as well went Kim Behait, who hasn't been ahead of him all day, I think. So that's a position gained overall for Kim Behait, and Hanker had only just made that move, has got it all to do again.
Yeah, he certainly does at this point in time, so we'll see how that one works. Look at Russ Barnes, though. He's trying to find a way through on Dion Phillips the best he can at this point in time. Once more looking for the brakes at Tower Corner, trying to ultimately move up another place, and it's just all there behind there. Issues for Fraser Smith as he tagged the wall. I think he's got away with it there. He just got himself on the curb, tried to catch it. The tank slapped, and effectively round he went, and he's only just now going to be able to get himself off and going again. So a big issue for him in terms of his battle. Barnes, though, he's not stopping for what happened behind. He's still thinking, I might have a run here on the Ferrari.
And a run he has. He's in the slipstream, and I think he's going to be close enough here. He goes to the outside of Dion Phillips' Ferrari. Phillips goes very defensive, needs to. He sees the massive BMW turning up in his rear mirror. And Barnes now gets the switchback, gets the undercut, and well, not quite, but if he keeps himself alongside for turn 1, you can pull a move around the outside due to the nature of the braking zone. Here we go, we're still side by side in turn 1. Barnes will still be on the outside on the exit, needs to make sure that he doesn't get muscled out wide. Sometimes there's not much you can do about it. Phillips squeezing him to the edge of the circuit, and that was really good aggressive defense from Dion Phillips just within the boundaries, and keeps the place.
That is true racing between those two, and they can be proud of the way they battled that. And now you start looking at Dion Phillips again having to defend. Barnes all over, looking for the inside, no room at the in. Outside, just lisking over slightly there is Dion Phillips, giving him only the outside channel. And again, it doesn't work for Russell Barnes here. Dion Phillips is a wily fox. He knows his limits. He knows how wide his car is, and he uses it to his best advantage. Talking about the leaders, though, in both classes here, Neil Andrews has suddenly managed to pull out a 3.4-second margin here through some very nice, consistent laps. PJ Claeysens as well, pulling out some wonderful times at the moment out on track. He's ahead of Morgan Thompson by the eye test of about 5-6 seconds.
Wow, well, we thought that other drivers may stand a chance against Claeysens after Claeysens qualified in third, although by the end of not even the first lap, but the first sector, he was already off and gone. But anyway, Claeysens driving a masterful performance on his way to... well, I don't want to speak too soon, but you know what I was about to say there. Also extending his lead, Neil Andrews. He now has 3 seconds over Hoogland, and that's a scrap that was on briefly while they were in traffic. They briefly came to within a second of each other, although of course then they got spread out by the traffic again. So we'll see if Hoogland has anything for him in the pit stages. McDougall is in the pits currently, so he's going to be dropping a few positions back, but that's okay because he can gain it back again. And when he exits the pits, we'll see where he ends up.
Look at Barnes once more, though, here. He'll try the same stick again. Well, trying the same thing again and again is the sign of madness, but he's got a different chance because he was slightly further behind, looking slightly to that inside, trying to find out if there's mistakes, and there is, because Barnes is going to slide very much better on the brakes there. At late braking is the Ferrari compared to that BMW. The BMW a little bit more bulkier than the Ferrari is there, Caitlin. Able is that lighter Ferrari just to slide a little bit more on its tyres and late brake and trail brake. That's where Barnes got caught out.
Very similar mistake to the one we saw from Lewis Hanke there a couple of minutes ago, as he just braked a little bit too hard and the car got sideways. It's an easy mistake to make. Of course, we've seen multiple people doing it, but yeah, it costs you a lot of time because you scrub off all of that momentum. You may even damage your tires slightly, and there's no way that if you're side by side with someone, it's going to end well for you, because you're always going to drop behind them. So anyway, that's that for the minute for Barnes. He's now got a car behind him. That's McDougall, just fresh out of his pit stop, and he's going to have to give way to him into the faster part.
He certainly is going to have to give way here as we are over the halfway distance here in this race, a race which has now seemingly just calmed itself down a little bit. All these drivers just spreading out to a point with all the incidents we've had in the early stage they've gone through and look to try and make some good progress. Drivers we haven't really talked about today. Third position in class right now for your GTEs is Ewan Marshall in the number 18 machine. Teammate to PJ Claeysens as he's been looking to move forward, and this has been crucial. His lap this time of 58.6 is key, but watch out for behind because Keanu Begonjon is only a couple of seconds back behind down the road and could be in striking distance with a 58.5 that last time by. Only one driver was quicker than Keanu, and that was, of course, PJ Claeysens, who is in a world of his own, 0.6 of a second a lap quicker at the front of the field in the 27.
0.6 of a second, that is really great something from Claeysens. We saw it at Daytona where he won by a pretty significant advantage, and we saw it again at Sao Paulo where he won once again. But anyway, getting away from the field despite his slightly poor qualifying wasn't entirely his fault. Meanwhile, into the pits comes our race leader.
He certainly does, and Jelle Peter Hoogland is going to stay out. Now, this is a real point of contention for how you make your stop, because we know that these tyres do take time to get up to temperature. They take a couple laps to make it work. That's going to be in favour of the overcut, but you also have to remember that undercut strategy. If you stay out too long and traffic starts to become an issue, as Hoogland just made away through Louis Hanke, I think that this could be very interesting. Jelle Peter Hoogland's got no traffic in front of him for a very long time, and that might be the big change for what he does. Maybe stay out one lap more and then decide to go out and get into the pits, as Andrews still there, now gets himself off of the lane and gets himself going again. He will have traffic to contend with in the form of Adam Wright on the outlap, and JPW Ringwood, which will have to be technically for position, the championship leader there, effectively now almost a pit stop behind. This is going to be a crucial moment in the race for Andrews and how he deals with the pressure of trying to get by what not only slower class traffic, but also the championship leader as well.
As you say, Ringwood doesn't have, he isn't obliged to give way to Andrews here, so this is going to be difficult for him. This is one of the worst positions he could have come out in, just behind a car of his own class. And we'll see how Ringwood deals with this as well. He doesn't want to lose too much time holding Andrews off, although at the same time, he knows that they're contenders. He knows that they're rivals in the championship, and as a result he doesn't want to make it too easy for Andrews either. The more he can hold him off, the better chance he has that Andrews will score fewer points. But anyway, then you have the other side of the coin, which is that would also mean that Hoogland would likely score more points.
Here he comes.
So, oh yeah.
In comes Yele Peter Hoogland, also coming off for the lane, Kianan Begognon, and also coming off for the lane is Ross Barnes. Begognon in fresh air at the moment, as he is the leader of all of those who have pitted at this point in time. A mile ahead of Billy Fletcher and Louis Hanker as well, with Ross Barnes filtering back into his position. But Hoogland in, Tony Baird also down in onto the lane, and crucially Neil Andrews having to get past traffic. That's Jonas Gillis he had to try and get through, as he now needs to chase down Ringwood, who is staying out for the moment. And remember, in comes actually JPW Ringwood, just hitting the limit of what he can do there. 35 minutes on that stint he goes. Out comes Yele Peter Hoogland, and they're trying to breeze through into turn one. Will be Neil Andrews. This is going to be a tight one here between these two, but Andrews with the overspeed has only just got it here, so that's a good stop from Yele Peter Hoogland. He's gained about 3 seconds in that stop, but now he's got to save the fuel behind Andrews and crucially stay within a second.
That's much closer than it was. It's a critical point of the race for the two of them, because it's the closest they have been, and Hoogland may think that this might be the closest they get for the remainder of the race as well, in which case he'll want to go for a move as soon as possible. Maybe the next time they reach traffic, he'll try to gain advantage from it, as Ringwood there flicks up the grass, flicks up the dirt, as he tries to extend his lead away from Yellow Peter Hoogland. Hoogland will be on slightly colder tyres here, although Andrews of course has tyres that are about two laps older than Hoogland. But anyway, here we go now towards the end sector of the circuit. I'm interested to see how close they get towards Sunset.
Well, we'll see how this works for Yele Peter Hoogland. The car in front of them has had a spin this lap, and that, of course, was Fraser Smith. And I'm just getting a word that Jonas Gillis may have just been involved in a something here or there, as he had to deal with JPW Ringwood coming out of the pits, who massively checked up, not expecting so hard on the brakes, Jonas Gillis. But that's a different point entirely. Yele Peter Hoogland definitely not close enough to make a move. Lost so much time through the left, right, left, and all of that down to the fact that he's taken a massive wide line and just unable to carry that same corner speed in terms that Neil Andrews has. And of course, Andrews, someone who does prefer to put himself in a position of higher downforce.
Yeah, I wasn't really that close with Gillis. A little bit of a close call with Ringwood, but Ringwood knew what he was doing. But anyway, you're right. Andrews appears to have lower downforce at as Fraser Smith goes off trying to give way to them, and that means, of course, that Andrews may well have the advantage in terms of defense here. And if I was either driver in this battle here, I would absolutely rather be in Andrews' position.
Well, it's always easier to battle from in front than it is to battle from behind, because when you have to battle from behind, you have to actually go out there and make the move that gives yourself a little bit more security in the way that the race is going to be run out there. Still, though, drivers are diving down in onto the pits. This is Edward Lack now in the 209, pitting from 4th position on the road to come down in onto the lane. So now this is going to be a key stop for the 209. Remember, he was fighting very hard and looking to try and chase down the likes of Keanu, along with Russell Barnes, who he was slightly ahead of. Russ Barnes in the 35s, just coming onto the Ullman straight now. Keanu right at the end of it here at Sunset Bend, so I expect Keanu to get through as Kimber Haight also comes down to the lane. Good stop there from Edward Lack. He's going to breeze everyone here this situation with the way that his stop's gone. I think Keanu is going to be behind here heading towards turn number 1, and he is by a fair distance.
I wonder if that means that Lack did something differently to the others. Maybe the others put a bit of fuel in and Lack maybe didn't or something. I'm not entirely sure what that could mean there, but yeah, he has jumped quite a few cars with that.
Yeah, he certainly has jumped a few cars, and I'm just getting a look here at another little scrap. Oh, big issue actually has happened just in front. It was with Dion Phillips, who was avoiding all of it. This is Josh Johnson, who's been involved again with traffic, and again it's Jonas Gillis, who caught the grass on the outside, heading through the right-hand corner of Big Bend, and up and over in a helter-skelter, a scary one for Josh Johnson.
Goodness me, yeah, that is a big crash. Biggest one we've seen so far this season. And that was obviously Gillis's fault. And I tell you what, Josh Johnson won't be writing Gillis any Christmas cards this year.
He won't. He got sent to the Shadow Realm. That's how bad that incident was. So, able to deal with that incident there. Not ideal, but that is just a case of being a little bit spooked by lap traffic trying to get through. And Josh Johnson's race is all but over here today, as he has found himself into so many troubles out on the road. It has not been a great race by his standards, although he did try and set it up well. Spinner, that's Louis Hanker, who has gone around right in front of Billy Fletcher. The pressure told through Tower Corner as he went through, ran wide, the back stepping out because he didn't have the downforce in that vehicle because he wasn't carrying enough speed to the mechanical grip, not enough to deal with the lack of what was aerodynamic grip at that stage, Caitlin.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'll have a quick look. I was checking, I was looking at Josh Johnson's accident again and counting the flips. He went over 10 times there and probably would have gone over even more if he hadn't gone to the Shadow Realm, as you say. But anyway, yeah, just going to see if I can catch up with anything else that's happened. Hanker appears to be, yeah, he's struggling. He's got damage there on the front right-hand side, so he's going to have to pit here.
It's a long stop as well for Dion Phillips. I think it's an extra 15 seconds of a long stop here for Dion Phillips. He has been there for a very long time down on the lane. And in fact, he's got the wrong gear trying to get himself outgoing. He's hit reverse instead of first gear. So Dion going the wrong way out of pit lane. But Louis Hanker's going to go through. And Dion Phillips with the horrible stop. I think he missed his box as well. That's why he was in reverse. That is the worst thing you could possibly do. Let's go. Oh, wait, I'm going the wrong way.
Indeed. But anyway, returns to the race. Interestingly,
Hoogland's behind Baird.
Oh yeah, Hanker didn't pit despite
Hoogland's had an issue here. He's dropped 10 seconds here early. He's had a spin down at turn 3. So on the brakes, he's gone. Yellow Peter Hoogland trying to get past Matisse van Delden there on the inside. He's just caught the grass on the inside. Round's gone Yellow Peter Hoogland. And all of a sudden, he's now down to 3rd because Tony Baird is up to 2nd.
Now, Hoogland had a real chance of winning this race. He was right up behind Andrews. But now the gap for the lead is going to be 10 seconds, almost over that, possibly over that, as Tony Baird now goes up into 2nd place. That is a big disaster from Hoogland. I was also going to say Hanker didn't pit despite the damage. But yeah, you were right to cut me off there, because Hoogland, what a disaster for him. He's going to be so frustrated.
Out of the pits comes the race leader in GTEs. This is PJ Claeysens. As into the box goes Ewan Marshall. That's how much of a lead he has. He gets himself out and going again. Edward Lack is the closest challenger to Ewan Marshall here in 2nd, and Marshall now gets off of the jacks and goes down towards turn number 1. But it looks like Edward Lack's strategy has been pinpoint accurate, because out of nowhere in this race, Edward Lack has fought his way up into what has to be considered at this point 2nd place, unless Morgan Thompson has anything to say about it. Marshall's now behind Keanu Begognon after that early stop, but Morgan Thompson, by my reckoning at this point in time, is the only driver right now to the leading in GTE who is yet to make a stop, and he is very much due with 15 minutes to go.
Indeed, Morgan Thompson still running in that BMW. We know he's got a big fuel tank. That probably won't be too much of an issue here, although he may run the risk of having worn out tires and not gaining as much of an advantage from changing tires as he would otherwise have done. Actually, I'm not sure. Do these drivers change tires in the stop at all, or do they just refuel?
I believe they do take tyres because they do get an
Sure.
advantage from it. So that's going to be key in terms of the way they go. If your fuel is longer than your tyres, then typically you take tyres because it's tyres around a track like this. But Morgan Thompson round Sunset Bend and is due down on the lane and is going to dive down onto the lane. He's got to be careful about the yellow commitment cone there, and he hits that marker quite nicely as he will now search for his box out there today, which will be the 10th box down overall, as he will look to go through and will look to try and gain position. So he will look to try and hit his box and get himself on the run moving forward. But keep an eye out on the battle. Third and fourth net on the road at this point. Marshall and Keanu, which could become fourth and fifth with the stops. There goes PJ Claeysens into the race lead once again. It's the only time he's not had the lead in this event. Here comes Morgan Thompson out of the lane. He should be ahead of his teammate at the moment. CXR will be very happy with their result at the moment here. They've got the race lead in what is LMP2, and they are second and third here in GTE.
Yeah, Thompson's still not bidding there, but anyway, Edward Lack actually. I think Lack is still in third in GTE
Yes,
on
he
the
is.
road. Yeah, even though actually Lack did bid, so yeah, I still think that he must have done something different to the others. He must not have taken tires, or maybe he didn't refuel as much. I don't know, but whatever the case, Edward Lack up into probably net second. It all depends on where Thompson comes out, but anyway, oh no, he's still running second. Is he ahead of Claeysens?
Well, Claeysens is actually a mile down the road, so Claeysens does lead. Thompson did just make his stop, so Thompson in second, Lack now in
that's what
third.
confused me. Sorry, I thought Thompson had stayed out. That's what confused me.
Absolutely fine, of course, but we've still got great battles at the moment. Tony Baird has not been able to shake off Jelle Peter Hoogland at the moment. In fact, Hoogland was 4/10 quicker on that last run through, but is stretching the gap again is the Nomad Sim Racing driver. So Tony Baird looking to get something out of his season. He's been on the back foot at both Daytona after a huge accident, and then he's been on the back foot at Interlagos as well. This has probably been not the best result he was looking for. He could have challenged for the race lead were it not for lap one issues, but to be in second place right now, Tony Baird would take some big 18 points and say, you know what, this is a foundation to build on.
Of course, 18 points, not too shabby at all, and he will take that any day, I expect. Claeysens now registered again as the GT leader as they cross the line. So yeah, apologies for the confusion there, and I expect it will be then Thompson and Lack second and third, and that is probably the order as it stands. So so that is a. That's the order. Ewan Marshall as well, also running well in the other CXR car, and Claeysens continues to lead. Not entirely sure what the gap is, but it's big.
It's big. That's all it needs to be. We don't need numbers to work out how quick PJ Claeysens is. When he comes to racing, PJ Claeysens' gap is normally big. Battle though back in GTE at the moment. Kimber Haight has lost a position on this lap to Fraser Smith, who has made a way through, and that has been the change for 18th overall, and in class that would be 12th as there goes through Benjamin Johnson, just picking up their one lap on Kimber Haight as they go through. So Kimber Haight has dropped back behind, which is not going to be ideal. Ben Johnson has to be careful, though, in the 97. He can't get too caught up as he gets stuck behind Fraser Smith, who's just going to run his own lines here through turn two, not letting through the traffic, because this is only going to bring JPW Ringwood in, who needs a top five.
JPW Ringwood losing points in this championship with every car that finishes ahead of him, which goes without saying, but anyway, currently running in sixth position. He'll be slightly relieved that he's got that there have been two LMP2s retired already. Oh,
Barnes has gone around at Tower, and that was with no contact. Right in front of Philip McDougall, who was 4th position overall. McDougall's done very well to get away without contact through that section, but Barnes has lost a position to Billy Fletcher because of that spin. And all of a sudden, drivers hitting towards the end of the hour are starting to get slightly sloppy in the way that they are driving. They've got to be cautious that they do not run into more issues out there on the road.
I must say that was very good defence from Philip McDougall, slowing it down sensibly. And I know a lot of drivers, possibly even me, in that situation, who would have either panicked and swung the wheel to one side and probably gone into the wall, or maybe just given up and tried to push their way through. But anyway, that was a better option, and well done to McDougall there.
And the gap between 2nd and 3rd overall between Tony Baird and Jelle Peter Hoogland is now up at 1.8 seconds. And Caitlin, you spotted something.
Begonjon's just had a little off. He's been passed now by Ewan Marshall. I think it was a slight twitch mid corner for Begonjon that put him onto the grass. Wasn't a big off, but it's cost him 5th in class.
Couldn't slow it. He couldn't slow it there through turn number 3. He took 1 take, 2 takes, back started to come around, 3 takes through the corner for Keanu. And when you say Keanu do 3 takes, it's something that is not very often said, and that also goes for Keanu Reeves as well. So Keanu Begonjon there finds himself now backwards into 5th position, and Ewan Marshall now in 4th, having a very, very solid run of things right now. But Keanu will not give this up. He's got time. He's got 12 minutes and maybe a bit less now, 11 or 10 minutes to go out there and get what he wants. Now looking at 10 minutes to get the result he needs. So he's got probably, I would say, about 6 laps to go and really attack Ewan Marshall once again.
Ewan Marshall, of course, still running in that, well, it's now 4th in class, of course, ahead of Begonjon, both being passed now by Philip McDougall. McDougall going very wide, trying to find a way past Ewan Marshall, and actually he's going to lose a lot of time in the process, but now he gets him on the exit, and I think Begonjon probably lost more time in that than Marshall did. But anyway, the 2 Ferraris still slipstreaming, and as they head into Sunset Bend, I'd estimate the gap to be around probably a second, looking at it there.
Yeah, it looks around a second at this point in time, so that's going to be tough to be closed down at this moment. But we've seen weirder things happen in terms of racing. We've seen incidents happen right up until the last, as Jelle Peter Hoogland's down on pit lane again. So this is key. He's had a big moment, actually, through the final corner out there today. So he's gone through Sunset Bend. He's looking to put the power down, He's caught the grass on the exit, and he's gone right into the attenuator there on pit entry. So he's done well to get it going down into pit lane, but he's got to use a fast repair and get it back out again. And ultimately, he's now behind JPW Ringwood, behind Benjamin Johnson, and Philip McDougall here is on the podium. Keanu's nearly run into the back of Ewan Marshall.
The attenuator is always one of the worst things to hit because it's a sudden stop. You don't go bouncing off it, and as a result, you can never hope to just dink the suspension or anything. You always get proper damage from it. But anyway, and it's unlucky too because if he just spun a couple of split seconds earlier, he probably would have missed it and slid straight into the pit lane. And yeah, that would have cost him a lot of time, but nowhere near as much as he lost in the process.
Yeah, but the issue is, as if he slid into pit lane at 90 degrees, he may have been in the Austin Powers situation of doing the 1 million point turn. And talking about 1 million point turns, that's JPW Ringwood who's gone around at Cunningham Corner, and he's done well to avoid both Louis Hanker and Mathieu van Delden in their own scrap. So he will try and get himself out and going again. He does, but Louis Hanker right now all over Mathieu van Delden, looking for one more place.
It's almost like that curb there spun him around. It was just, that cone. It was just to clip the cone that the car went around. But anyway, I think it was more the grass that did it. But yeah, JPW Ringwood having a dastardly day in that LMP2. He's right at the back of his class with the exception of the 2 drivers who have retired. And he's going to be even further now behind Benjamin Johnson than he was before.
Well, that gap was only a couple of seconds. He was closing it down, but all of a sudden he'll pick up 10 more seconds, and Jelle Peter Hoogland may actually get one more yet in what has been a tough day for the Venomworks Black team as they have tried to scrap their way through. Still, Keanu tries to stay close to Ewan Marshall. He has kept himself in that range, and the range is working for him at the moment. He wants one more place, and one more place he will try and pick up. Another great run here on the run to the turn 7 hotel hairpin corner, and on the brakes it's not going to be quite there, as Russell Barnes has just had himself the received throughput that nobody wants. A big disconnect has cost him the rest of his race. But look at Keanu now through Fangio, right up to the outside. Maybe he's got the line inside here for Cunningham Corner. Can he get it down on the brakes? No, he can't. Ewan Marshall, always confident.
Ewan Marshall very confident on the brakes, as he has been all the way through this race. But Begunjon now has a real chance, because they're just approaching the drive down to Sunset Bend, and that's always a place where you can pull a move if you get enough slipstream. And with him plastered right up against Marshall's gearbox, I'm sure slipstream is
Ringwood's
going
in
to
the
be
off
in
again.
abundance.
Ringwood nearly went off at exactly the same corner with exactly the same drivers he was trying to lap at exactly the same place. He's now got to go around the outside of Mathieu van Delden, who's under no obligation to let him go because of the battle that he's in behind with Louis Hanker, and that is a very tough battle that he's got going on out there at the moment as they went through. So that's going to be key in terms of the way these two are going. Hanker trying to scrap with Van Delden, and at the moment is just doing enough here. They're doing 59s and 2-minute lap times at the moment. They will keep behind Dion Phillips, so that was very nearly another case of a JPW Ringwood nightmare for the championship leader.
Someone's just run wide there. There was an LMB2 going very slowly out of turn 3. Just trying to find out who that was, but anyway, it can't have been turn 3 because there's no one there.
Would that be Josh Johnson?
Oh, it was. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Josh Johnson. That was him just returning to the race. So Johnson is back in the race. He's behind a lot of the. In fact, he's behind the entire GTE field, apart from those who have retired. He's several laps down, but anyway, he's got nothing to lose, so he's just going for it now.
Yep, he's returned from the Shadow Realm with a probably a pitchfork or a sharpened stick or whatever it is possible that he has able to return with. So that's going to be key. Mistake, though, for Van Delden. Here comes Louis Hanker trying to get this run here through the big bend. And again, it's the inside, always defended there, the inside key to this in terms of scrap. But Hanker's going to try and run this one around the outside. Van Delden so narrow, too narrow, struggling through that section. And thank you very much. Sent to the grass for the troubles is Mathieu van Delden. He loses a place and blocks Jelle Peter Hoogland for the troubles as well, as he was trying to find a level at that point in time. Jelle's going to find an easy way through in terms of that battle. Still got Keanu going on with Ewan Marshall as well. Only a handful of laps to go here. Neil Andrews, make sure it's 3 to go here at the moment. It'll be 2 when he next comes to the line. So that will be 3 laps then for Keanu Begunjon to try and desperately get by Ewan Marshall for 4th. The big battle here at the end of this race.
Johnson goes through, pulls into the braking zone and makes it through cleanly. Now it is just between Marshall and Begunjon. Begunjon getting the drive out of the corner towards turn 1. This can be an overtaking opportunity, although it's a very difficult one. Goes to the inside. That's a good drive now, and Ewan doesn't cover it off. We've got Begunjon on the inside, and I reckon he has the corner there. Definitely, yeah, no, very close into the braking zone, crowding him over. Although, again, that was just what Marshall did to him earlier on in the race. So returning the favor there, and that's some great driving. Very clean, very close, and through goes Begunjon.
Yes, and back into 4th place, and Ewan Marshall will want that back and will want it quickly. The draft will help in terms of making that move. That was a very tough move to make for Keanu, but he gets back to 4th in category after starting today on pole position. Issues early on caused him to have a few troubles. 2 laps to go, though, for Neil Andrews. And let's just talk about Neil Andrews for a second. He'll become the first winner in the Venomworks Sportscar Championship to go back-to-back in LMP2 here at round 3. And this was the Neil Andrews we were expecting, a driver who makes very little to no mistakes, who gets himself out front so many times and does not relinquish, even under the face of pressure, which he has seen today through the likes of Jelle Peter Hoogland.
Now, does he take the lead of the championship from Benjamin Johnson if they finish as
From
they are?
JPW Ringwood.
Ah, sorry, yeah.
I would assume it would be very close. I don't have the numbers on me at this point in time, but we will, of course, for next round, ladies and gentlemen, have all the numbers available. But I reckon it's going to be incredibly close with JPW Ringwood only scoring here in 5th position by my maths, 10 points.
Indeed, but anyway, we have just a few minutes left in the race now. I think one more lap after this one for Neil Andrews. Looking at the race time, not really that long to go. And for him, he's got a 9-second
Oh,
lead.
Billy.
Oh,
Billy, he's gone around, and that is at the right-hander there of Le Mans. He got the curb on the exit, a bit of grass, and he's nosed it into the Armco. No, not even Armco. He's nosed it into the concrete there on the inside. That's how far he went on that spin. He hit the concrete. So you don't often expect that, but oh, Billy, he loses one to Louis Hanker, who now moves up into 6th place overall. I know Ollie's been in the YouTube talking about, oh, Hanker's on for a P5 here. You're close, Ollie, but you're one off unless maybe something happened between you and Marshall and Keanu Begognon, and at the moment it could, because JPW Ringwood is only just making your way through, struggling on power application on the exit. Keanu having no luck there as he desperately had to find a lane to deal with JPW, and he just about does. Ewan Marshall still there, though, in terms of that scrap, as the white flag lap starts for Neil Andrews here as he looks to try and pick up what he wants, which is a 2nd race victory in a row in the Venomworks Sportscar Championship, as he gets by Mathieu van Delden with no issues at all. Back, though, to Keanu and Ewan at this point in time. They will have one more lap to get their scrap, but Keanu's starting to stretch his legs here at the moment in this GTE battle. The two Ferraris going at it, and at the moment it seems like Keanu is very much just that slight cut above, and he's hoping for no mistakes, and at the moment there are none, and you can see he moves hard to the right-hand side, and then he'll soon move left, trying to break the draft, trying to open out 1 second to make sure that it is all going to work out in his favour. But we turn to Neil Andrews in the number 10, making his way now with Billy Fletcher just in front of him, who he'll have to navigate, and should do so without too many worries. Straight down the inside. Billy has a big moment over the curb, though, through that section. That would have been a little bit of an issue, and off has gone Louis Hanker, actually, just in front of that almost, as he had a little bit of a spin. But here comes Neil Andrews, now looking to try and get himself going through, as Begognon has had a huge moment here in the final section, so we just caught that. But Neil Andrews, round Sunset Bend, is going to pick up a big victory here today. He goes back-to-back here at Sebring and wins round 3 of the championship. It will be Tony Baird in 2nd, and Philip McDougall will come home for a 1-3 for the team, which they'll be incredibly excited about out there on the road. Let's get a replay incredibly quickly of what happened to Keanu through on what was the final section of that last lap. And the big issue was he was ahead, but he just went too deep, slid the car, had to try and stop it, didn't hit anything, but that has cost him 4th position come the end. But now heading through the final section here, Caitlin, is your race leader in GTEs, who has been dominant again, PJ Claeysens.
PJ Claeysens now down the straight towards Sunset Bend, and he has been pretty much unstoppable today. Of course, didn't qualify on pole, but that really didn't matter. Of course, he took the lead on the opening lap. Here he comes around the final corner now. PJ Claeysens has driven absolutely wonderfully. He's not even pushing now. He's just coasting as he comes up to the line, flashes the lights. Fantastic from PJ Claeysens.
Yeah, PJ Claeysens with a dominant victory. It'll be Morgan Thompson who will come home then for 2nd position then in that category, as also JPW Ringwood hits the line. What a day it's been for him. Championship leader has been more backwards than forwards. It's looked more like Felipe Massa at Silverstone than it has been a championship performance, with Jelle Peter Hoogland just behind. As 3rd came home Edward Lack with a great result, and Ewan Marshall coming home ahead of Keanu. Official classified results then. let's get them up on your screen. Neil Andrews then will pick up the win in 1 hour and 52 seconds. His margin of victory, well, he strolled to a canter to come the end, 6 seconds over Tony Bed. It was up over 11 seconds, 12 seconds at one point in time. Philip McDougall, incredibly happy day for CXR as they pick up a 1-3 finish in the 883s with Benjamin Johnson there in 4th position overall. JPW Ringwood 5th, Yele Peter Hoogland in 6th. The drivers finishing out of category, Josh Johnson and Kevin Bolland. In terms of your GTE, it would be a very different story indeed, but one story remained the same, Caitlin.
PJ Claeysens at the front. That's what remained the same. We then had Morgan Thompson in 2nd place, followed by Edward Lack taking a podium on his, I think that's his first race in the series. Then it was Ewan Marshall, Keanu Begonjon from pole down to 5th. Not a good race from him, and had a couple of incidents and slides there. But anyway, Lewis Hanker was P6, followed by Billy Fletcher, Dion Phillips, Matish Van Delden, Fraser Smith, Kimber Haight, Ethan Bass, then Adam Wright. Josh Johnson, of course, he was an LMP2 who finished 4 laps down due to his instance. Russell Barnes DNF'd, as did Jonas Gillis after sending Johnson into the shallow realm. Elmer Noteboom had some incidents. He retired earlier on. Ben Kriener, he had an accident. Kevin Bolland had our first accident of the day, retiring on the very first lap of the race, and Ollie Slade never started.
Yeah, and those are the ways that it finishes here today for all of these drivers. A big, big result. But of course, this series always seems to come up trumps once again. And then now we start looking towards where we are in just under a month's time, because the big race coming up will be Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is going to be key. And Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is going to be a huge place in terms of this battle. Another tight circuit, a street circuit as well, no doubt here, Caitlin. How different is it going to be moving from a track which is narrow in terms of the sense of airfield to narrow in terms of the sense of there is literally no margin for error?
I love the diversity of this series and the tracks that we go to. Of course, the Montreal circuit, not really anything like anything else we've been to so far. It's a load of tight chicanes separated by short runs and gradually curving straights, meaning, of course, overtaking and especially passing lap traffic. Yeah, that's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge, but of course, a challenge that will be very much well fought for. A massive thank you, of course, to those who get it done for us, and very much especially to Violet, who has been fantastic with her music. And of course, you can catch all of her albums on Bandcamp and on Spotify, likes of Queen of Misfits. And I know a couple of few albums that will be coming up very shortly for her, and there'll be some wonderful music available for you to go and get. So make sure you give her a little bit of love. But of course, from Marco Barbanera on the cameras and Caitlin Penny, I have been Jake Sperry. Andrews goes back to back. His shine is there, and he will smile from ear to ear, knowing what he's got. In fact, he will smile ear to ear so much that we will have him in for comment right now. Neil, that is a big victory, knowing that Yele was challenging you in the early stages. Your rival behind JPW Ringwood had a terrible day at the office, and you come around with a huge victory.
Yeah, that was quite difficult, guys. It really was.
Well, a really difficult day at the office, but it was one that I think really did surprise you. You looked behind you, you saw Yele after the pit stop had closed you down to literally nothing. So now you start looking at, okay, what's the next stage of development going to be in terms of this race? It seemed like the moment that he had that issue within lap traffic, he had that spin, it's going to be really, really good in terms of the way you ran. It seemed like for the final 15 minutes, all you had to do was have a nice Tuesday evening drive.
That's exactly it. But when he come out of the pits, I pitted a lap early, and for some reason I just put in way too much fuel. I had another 6-7 kilos left in the tank at the end of the race, so I don't know what went wrong there. But when I come up to turn 1 and he was right there, wow, I was thinking this is going to be a challenge right to the end. He had pace on me all night, so he was keeping me honest all night long. But yeah, when I saw where we come up into turn 2, with a GTE, and I then looked on my relative and just saw his figures just going further and further away. I was like, oh wow, this is now just take it steady, don't do something stupid, and we get the win.
Well, you get the win. It's a huge day for the team. It's a 1-3 and a 2-3 in both categories, and you look forward towards what will be going on next time we are racing here on Forever Sim Racing, because it's the circuit Gilles Villeneuve up next, a street circuit. How do you feel about a street circuit in these vehicles?
Gilles Villeneuve is a bit like Sebring. I absolutely love Gilles Villeneuve. The track selection for this season in the Venomworks suits me down to the ground. So yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, I just want to make a big shout out to the team. I mean, 1-3 in the HPD. Big shout out to Phil there, and a 2-3 in the GTEs. Morgan and Ed, a fantastic drive. Unfortunately, one of our other drivers, Elmar, I don't think he had an enjoyable drive today, but big shout out to the team. Well done, guys. Well done.
Well, a huge shout out goes there to the team. But before we let you go, Neil, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done?
Well, we don't have any sponsors. We're just an independent team. We've got a bunch of drivers that work really close. Just a big shout out to everybody. Well done for you guys for televising it, and big shout out to Venomworks for a decent league. So yeah, look forward to next race.
Absolutely, and of course, maybe it might be a case, Neil, you need to just put sponsor me on the rear wing, see if that attracts anybody.
Or people listening, see what happens.
We'll
maybe Mercedes are listening, or Honda,
Well, you never know. This is sim racing right now in 2020. Anybody could be racing at this point.
That's so true. That is so true. Well, can I say a big shout out to the medical staff of all around the world for doing what they're doing. Well done to them.
Well, Neil Andrews there, a big race victory. And of course, there are some things bigger than sim racing out there. But of course, everybody knows that entertainment is what brings this world together. And the biggest smile goes to Neil Andrews. He picks up a big race victory. PJ Claeysens also managed to do so as well. But we will see you all, of course, in a couple of weeks. Well, actually, a few weeks' time, I think would be the right word to say it, as we head to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.